Let's talk about the 5-day period. This is arguably the most critical 5 days of your entire journey to qualifying as a chartered accountant. Hi everyone, my name is SAICA APC. I am a qualified chartered accountant by profession, and I like to refer to myself as your self-appointed APC mate. In this video, I'll be sharing some tips and tricks on how to best manage the 5-day period, ensuring that you are well equipped to go and pass your APC. We are still on the APC Nugget series, brought to you by your mate Sivahle with an I. I will be giving you some detail as far as how to plan from day 1 to day 5, mainly basing it on my experience and what worked for me. The backstory, or how I done the 5-day period, was to ensure that I set out my days in 3 to 4 hour segments. I started my day around 8 o'clock, meaning my first break would be at 12, and then from 12 to 1, that's my break time, which is an hour break. And then thereafter I will resume, and at 1 till 5 o'clock, thereafter 5 to 6:30, that's my break time, and then I'd resume again at 6:30 till 10:30 or 11 o'clock, depending. But you do whatever suits you best, but that's how I had arranged my days. All right, so with that in mind, on the day of the receipt of receiving the pre-release information, you then want to, within that first 4 hours, which is the 8 to 12, I had made those hours to be for me to just read the pre-release information. You'll be looking out for specific things within the 4 hours. So the first 1 hour of reading the case study is just big picture, nothing serious. I just want to get to know this case study, what is it about, where am I, and so forth. So nothing deep about that 1 hour, just reading the pre-release information and just familiarizing myself with the pre-release information. And then when I read for the second time, now I'll give that 1 hour 1:30 that second time, because now I'm reading with the intention to understand as well as to connect certain dots. To connect the dots, like to say maybe this information that is being stated in page 1, it links to what they've also maybe stated in a different page, or, as well as at the same time, because now I'm understanding to connect dots, and I'm reading to understand whether I like it or not. My brain is already picking up triggers and so forth, or I'm identifying the triggers. So that second time, that's when I'm also identifying the triggers and so forth, then doing the connection of the dots. And then the third time that I then read, I then also give it an hour 30. This time I'm contextualizing and thinking on each trigger. But what do I mean by contextualizing? I mean, now you're reading with the intentionality and extent of saying you also want to be, you are more, yes, you are active when you're reading for the second time, because you're highlighting and so forth, identifying the triggers and connecting the dots. But on this third time, now it's with the intention of also identifying or stating out what it is that you will be doing on each trigger, or now you are even like basically stating out what is the research needed for each trigger. For this, I used a template. That one, I would be incorporating some of the 6-step or 7-step approach that they normally speak about on the board courses, but the essence of it was, when I was doing, or when I was stating out what is the research that needed to be done, this is the same time that I'm also putting out what are the what if analysis that I should consider, what is the multi-disciplines that are involved, and so forth and so forth. So I will be now thinking about all those elements when I'm reading for that third time, and I'm noting that down, and I used to note it down on a template. If you would be interested in that template, which I think is well, it really worked for me, and I really think it's an amazing template, because it makes you think about all these various elements for your research purposes. You will find it also on my YouTube. I did put a link there on the video where I speak about the pre-release information, so you can go to my APC mates and then you'll be able to download that template and see how best then you can use it for yourself as well. Yeah, after that 4 hours, you head on over, you give yourself that break at, well, for myself, I give myself at that break at 12 o'clock. Then after that break time, my group and I would then have our meeting for between 1 to 2 hours tops. The group meeting should not take you so long, please. You don't want it to take away from your research time and from you actually engaging with the case study. And it's important that before that meeting, everybody has done an in-depth read of the case study and everyone has identified what research needs to be done. So it's not just a matter of this group meeting is for the intention of confirming triggers. No. Well, yes, you are there to confirm the triggers, but additionally you all need to be you all need to be aligned on what is the research that needs to be done. So in your group meeting, whoever gives forth that this is the trigger, they should also give forth what is the research that needs to be done on this trigger, of which you must all then have input. If you have something additional to add, you should have an input as far as, okay, yeah, I hear what you're saying, but also we must consider these elements and what's or not and what's or not. But it shouldn't just be a matter of confirming triggers, because the crux of the group, or what makes it a well-oiled machine, is after this we know that Avengers, we are now going to do XYZ, on this particular trigger. And make sure that as you are in this group meeting confirming triggers and so forth, that ensure that all triggers that are coming forth, or any research elements that are coming forth that I hadn't identified for myself, I'm making sure that I'm noting those but in a different color. Reason being, after this the meeting, I know that these are the things that I need to go engage on, either with self, in the sense that I need to reread the passage and then identify or be able to come to the conclusion that either this is a trigger, or the conclusion that, okay, yeah, true, the research needed on this is XYZ, because it's something that I had not identified for myself. Second part of it, you need to be at a point of, you need to engage on it to the extent that if maybe after you go and actively read and you are still sort of either confused, or you are not of the same view that something is a trigger, or you need further clarity, and go back to your group member and say, okay, assist me with this, I didn't quite get it. So that's why you highlighted it, or you put it in a different color, because you are alerting yourself that these are things that still need my attention. Cool. What is then going to be important is that you then dedicate 30 minutes to an hour to set out or plan a timetable for the 5-day period. This is the best time to set the timetable, because this is a time at which now you've confirmed triggers. You know how many triggers you have. You also have confirmed what is the research that needs to be done, so you can more or less be able to have a fair gauge of how long a certain trigger should take you, or how long should the research for that particular trigger take you. So now have more or less all the inputs that you need for your timetable. So when you set out your timetable, as I said, you then divide your days. All these 5 days for me was consistently those 3 to 4 hour segments that I just stated. But what was additionally important for me, in addition to these 3 or 4 hour segments that I said ended at 11 for me on some days 10:30, was that I did then set a buffer for myself, because as I said, my day starts at 8, ends at 12, but it doesn't have to start at 8. It didn't always have to start at 8. Some days I would wake up at 4 o'clock, but maybe I'd stay up just for 2 hours or less. But the purpose of that, it would only be when it's necessary. So the purpose of that buffer morning segment, of which is 2 hours, was for me to be able to, should there have been work that I was doing on the particular day, or whatever trigger research I was doing during the day that I wasn't able to sufficiently cover during these segments, then had used that morning buffer, that 2 hours, to then go back to whatever trigger research I didn't finish during the day. But I needed a point that I never overlap on another trigger's time. Just make sure that once you've allocated time and you've planned your timetable, do not overlap, or do not use the time that you've planned for another trigger to finish up work you haven't done for another trigger. So once it strikes 12 o'clock and you said you must be done with a particular trigger at 12 o'clock, a trigger research at 12 o'clock, close it, it's done. You will not see it again. You will only then see it at your 2 hour buffer. Whatever elements are not finished, that 2 hour buffer should cover it. The last part of the day, which I guess it would maybe be that last segment of the day per my timetable, I'll then be using that to do industry research. Putting it on day one, you are able, it's positioning you to have a fuller appreciation of this particular industry. So as you go on with your research and so forth, you go on now with also such a widened perspective and a better understanding of the industry that you're in. Yeah, so as far as also industry research, for me, I did not take it that deep. I hope you guys do not go that deep. 5 key parts that I did for my industry research. I know now it's a different era from the time that I wrote, so I know you guys can use AI. I don't know to what extent you're allowed or to what extent you use it, but probably do these things. But maybe now it's just easier for you to get the information or these the inputs to these because of the AI, because they are still quite fundamental to industry research. So I used to do then the business model canvas, which is something that you can already be doing as you are reading the case study, just filling in those key things of business model canvas. If you don't know what it is, go to Google, say business model canvas, it will give you a template, and then you'll be able to use that template to then fill out based on the case study or the industry you're actually researching. But it essentially gives you key things that you should be researching about that particular industry, and you just plot in those key elements. I did my ratio analysis, not that deep. Also, please don't go crazy with it, and based on experience, you don't end up needing it that much. So just based on the case study, you'll be able to assess maybe, okay, this industry or this company seems to be having going concern issues. Since I can see they're having going concern issues, maybe I should lie more on the going concern ratios. I should be looking at my solvency ratios, my liquidity ratios, and so forth. Like, you know, you can just gauge out. Then you'd also want to be doing your SWOT analysis, also doing 6 capitals, as well as your pastel analysis. Yeah, then done. That would be me done with industry research, and maybe it takes me 2 hours or 3 hours if I'm gonna sleep at 11, depending. Okay, cool. The rest of the days go by, at least they don't have as much activity to do as far as all the different elements that go into day one. Now it's based on the timetable that you set up for yourself. So how I had set out my timetable would be that on day 2, I'm doing my strategy triggers. This is where I look into all the triggers that would need me to have other considerations. So should there be a costing, pricing, or finance decision making trigger, evaluations, and so forth. Those I would have on my day 2, and that's when I'll also be giving all those other considerations. Right, so and now we move on to day 3. Day 3, that's when, before I move on to day 3, the other key part of my days, or what I found to be extremely helpful, was to print after every day. So I'd use that time slot, the time where I have my longer break, which is so I'd use that time slot of 5 to 6:30, which was my longer break of the day. to also print. You do not want to leave your printing to the last minute, of which I have had my fair share of experience of that. What I did was, after printing for the day, should there be additional things that I'm not comfortable with, or should there be additional research on that particular summary or that particular trigger I was working on that day, during that buffer hour of mine, or the morning slot, the morning before the start of the day, I would then just add whatever I need to add in pen. Like, I'd be adding it onto my printed page, but I'll be adding it in pen, and it still worked out perfectly. It just makes things a lot easier if you print as you go. So day 3, I did my technical triggers, completed. Now you take out that template that I had discussed, as far as because you had set out for yourself what research needs to be done. You've set out what are the what if analysis and so forth. Well, this also applies to the strategy triggers. This is which you did on day 2. So even day 2, you would have had to pull out that document of yours that would then guide what is the research that needs to be done. And before I forget, this is the point at which, no, actually, day 1 is the point at which you pulled out your master file and you went in to check your master files for now the topics that had been triggered in previous case studies that are now being triggered now, and you are now using those specimen responses on the master file to assist you or to guide you, even as far as what is the research that needs to be done. So when you get your pre-release, or on that first day, you are also using it alongside that master file. If you don't know what the master file is, I strongly urge you to go and watch part 1 of this APC Nugget series. In any case, we are on day 3. Day 3, that's when I completed my technical triggers, using that document then to guide me what is the research needed, and I'm using the specimen responses to also guide how I am formulating or accumulating my research. Cool. Day 4 was also technical triggers. Day 4 is also quite a jam-packed one. Day 4 is when I completed my technical triggers, and also had my group meeting at midday. At this point, it's information sharing. Most of the triggers should be done. At worst, maybe you should be left with one trigger that you still have to do, 1 or 2, but hopefully just 1. But in this group meeting, you guys are sharing information of what's the research that you've done, and so forth and so forth. Even that 1-2 hours max. After that meeting, you want to then go close the gaps that you've identified from the group meeting. Day 5, there's no trigger work that you should be doing. You should be done with every single thing. So on this day, that's when you go and do your last print. Like, you shouldn't be having a lot of things to print. So yeah, it could even take you a good 2 hours to just print the things that you don't have. And then you then read your file from top to bottom. And for myself, after I've read, my cutoff, please set a cutoff time for yourself. My cutoff was midday, 12 o'clock. I think at worst I'd probably went till 2 o'clock, which was horrible because it should be ending at 12. After you did that, you cut off, and then you need to thereafter chill. Hey, take a breath. You chill, go for a lunch date, watch a movie, go to gym, whatever floats your boat, just whatever gets you relaxed. You forget your file for like some time. Just forget about everything. Disconnect, hopefully even from your group, disconnect from everyone, from everything. You don't want anybody making you panic that you still need to go research whatever. Your file is done. Day 5, you're not wanting any additional anything from anyone. And then when you come back from your lunch date, or when you come back from the movie, or you just had taken a hot nap, you find yourself a mirror, you take a breath, you look at yourself in that mirror and say, I've done everything that I could, and everything that I've done is enough. I will make it. You believe it, you internalize it, and then you make sure that you get the best rest you can possibly get. I know you'll be anxious, but just make sure you sleep early and get yourself some very good rest, because the very next day you need to go there and knock it out of the park. I have full faith that is exactly what you are going to do. Okay, I wish you the best of luck with the 5-day period. I wish you the best of luck with the actual APC. I know you can make it, and I am forever rooting for you. I can't wait to celebrate with you, and most importantly, I can't wait to celebrate you. All the best.